would be given a phone at that time. Walter, however, did have a phone. But I will speak from his phone, elsewhere, but never directly to him. Because he very rarely answered the phone. He had a phone, but he himself very rarely answered it. It would be either his in-laws or the house, person who looked after the house.
Do you have any idea how come Walter managed to secure a telephone even though he wasn't a civil servant?
Again, direct knowledge of that would make an assumption. Because his wife was a civil servant at one time, she's a nurse, she more or less understands. But you have to have some criteria before the company, telephone company will even accept the application. So I want to assume that it was because of her. Because he wasn't working, he was employed. He was a lecturer, but he wasn't employed in the way that the GT&T would say, yes, we'll give you a phone because of your status.
Just
So he had his wife.
Just to give us an idea, could you perhaps guess at what percentage of persons may have had telephones in those days?
That would be beautiful, because one would have to have an idea of the catchment area for the whole of Georgetown and Greater Georgetown.
Okay, let's do it another way. Was it unusual to have a telephone in those days?
It wasn't unusual, but it wasn't a sort of generally accepted facility, put it out. General in the sense that large masses of people had telephones as it came to be such. A select few people had.
So select few people had telephones in those days?
Especially civil servants, particularly
civil servants. Any other group had access to telephones in civil servants before government?
If I was a member of the PHC, I most certainly would have one. But if I was a member of the PHC, I would have one. PHC people had their telephones.
Do you have any idea why your brother Walter Rodney may have wanted a walkie-talkie?
I have some ideas, if I may. Okay. First thing, I think Walter recognized being able to communicate meant not just being able to speak to people at public meetings, like I'm speaking now and using, but also to receive, to get feedback, for people to reach him. And therefore, that was one of the reasons why he must have decided, or completely, I don't know, it must have been quite a decision, that what was necessary was to have a walkie-talkie apparatus. A walkie-talkie apparatus, communication. Additionally, Walter had had experience working in East Africa, where, unlike Guyana, communications are not as developed as they are in places in the Caribbean. Between the Mozambique, between the liberated areas, he has seen the value, the use or uses of these kinds of equipment. And therefore, I want to believe that operating in his mind was that the WPA could utilize us, have been done in walkie-talkies to cover distances which the walkie-talkie would extend to, and then another walkie-talkie would extend beyond and beyond, so you had an echo. I don't know, I'm assuming again. There is another fact. Why did Walter not go to purchase or get someone to purchase one of the commercial brands or models? That is a question many people ask. My idea is, my impression was that Walter believed in what is called self-sufficiency. He felt that if you were to go and acquire or procure any technology within the space of 2 weeks or 3 weeks, one or more of the components could go. Walter believed in what is called self-sufficiency or self-reliance. In other words, get someone to construct or get a group of persons to get constructed that form of communication rather than getting one on the market. In other words, he believed in self-reliance. that is one of the reasons, or one of the factors that will influence me to pursue such a course. And perhaps you could also highlight the fact that Walter was in South Africa and went to Mozambique. He would have been associated with Frelimo. And Frelimo would have from time to time shown him or demonstrated to him how illogical it was to try and capture equipment that had belonged to the Portuguese. Because once you capture that equipment, then you have to go to the Portuguese military system. You have to build your road. You have to be self-reliant. You have to construct your road. That's what's inside. That's the conflict. I don't know if anyone.
Do you know of any reason why Walter Rodney may have wanted to get his hands on explosives?
No.
Next statement. Yes, please. Mr. Rodney, your statement you spoke about events occurred on the 14th of June 1980. While your custody of these sports, I'd like to take you to that period. Where is this? Council, I refer to part of the statement, at page 4 of the statement, and it's numbered paragraph 13 from the Can you recall giving a statement?
Excuse me, that's what date?
Statement dated the 19th of April. 2014. The exit number is LER2. It was 10 and 20. LER1.
I think it's extract from inquest.
No, I was referring to the statement submitted as a witness statement. What is it? I stand corrected.
I have LER1 as a non-coroner's statement. Coroner's statement is the LER2.
Which is dated the 9th of November 2014. Some persons may have incorrectly marked it, but I believe it's now LER1.
And he agreed.
I'm sorry, say a lot of stuff. Can you recall saying in that statement, Mr. Rodney, that about 7 a.m. on the 14th of June, you were taken to the likeness of the file?
Why did you show him a copy?
Do you wish to be shown a copy of your statement?
I have a copy of it.
Will the witness be allowed to refresh himself on the statement he has?
May I just see the form?
big party, just let everybody know what's going on.
Yes, Mr. Rodney, you managed to find part of the statement? Page 4 of your written statement. Please hand this to Mr. Rodney. Mr. Rodney, please look at the statement I'm going to show to you.
You don't need to see Mr. Williams?
I'm seeing it here.
Okay.
Page 4, paragraph 13.
Yeah.
Yes.
You see that you, is it correct then that you, at 7 a.m., you were taken to the license through the parlor and asked to view a corpse?
Yes.
And can you tell us what happened? That is not your 4th of June 1998 at 7 a.m. Can you describe to us what happened?
When we were taken into a chamber, if you like, at the funeral parlor, and there was the body of a man, male person, on the gully. I recognized the person, and I was asked by one of the policemen, which one is this? That was the only, never said to me what or he mentioned anything, just said to me, which one is this? I would like that to be recorded.
No, you said you recognized the person.
Yes, I
Did you recognize the person to be?
I recognize it beyond immediately, so I recognize it beyond.
Okay, before you move on, how were you able to recognize it as Walter Rodney?
Because the face, the facial features alone, I was able to see it was. As a matter of fact, it was almost as if there was no marks whatsoever, save except a few abrasions. So I was able to recognize him as well.
These abrasions were on the face?
There were no abrasions whatsoever. In other words, the face was unmarked, unblemished. So I recognized it as well. The policeman said to me, and this is someone in before, one of them, which one is this, sir? He never said to me, who is this, if this is Walter. So I said to him, I don't know. Which one is this? I immediately recognized also, having heard the rage broadcast of a Negro man being discovered in the car, believed to be Walter before we left the police station. That's all, they knew who he was, but they wanted me now to see if they could get the tunnel. So I just told them, I said, I don't know. I didn't intend at that time or any other time to give them any information that would incriminate or lead the tunnel being possibly getting the same fate as Walter. So I told him, I don't know.
I don't think there's anything else that I wish to extract from this case.
Five, the reference 5, Roman numeral 5. He gave us evidence of having he ignored any early memory. This is critical as that is not being reviewed in terms of the extract. Can we take from it?
Thank you.
Just clarifications. I don't know, so I'm asking. Did your brother Walter and Donald, did they resemble? They have the same facial features?
At that time, no, because over time people age. But at that time, Walter had a goatee, a small goatee beard. Donald was unshaven completely.
I see.
And I knew them definitely at the time.
Thank you.
Did you say that Donald was shaved?
Unshaven.
Donald was unshaved.
At that time.
And Walter was.
And a small goatee beard, was distinguished by the beard.
Now, are you aware of any investigations or inquiries done into the death of your brother Walter?
Yes, I'm
If so,
aware.
can you tell us?
I'm aware that there was an inquest, and I think if my memory serves me correct, that was followed by a jurist, International Commission of Jurists Pro, ICJ. And there may also be some other legal inquiry which I'm not going to say, but I know definitely there were two. There was an inquest where someone by the name of Magistrate Pratt, I think, was the authority, and then there was this ICJ kind of investigation.
Did you play a part? I think you mentioned a local inquest as well as an international investigation. Did you take part in any of those inquiries or investigations?
I gave some evidence, as much as it was wished, to the Pratt inquest, not to the ICJ. I have nothing to say or do with the ICJ.
You just mentioned that you gave information as much as you wanted to. Is there any reason why you may not have wanted to share all of your information with that foreigners inquest?
Well, in answer to the question, Learning Council, for some reason or the other, it seems as if they didn't particularly want to give very much details for whatever reason. And being a brother of water and being able to sort of delve into some areas, they just curtailed it. That's my impression. I would have much preferred to be in there and just discuss and explain what was taking place. But it wasn't.
May I ask you if you told us all of the details, or are you curtailed here?
No, I don't feel curtailed here.
Is
Certainly,
it?
as a matter of fact, I think the learning commissioners themselves would have raised that. If it was, I don't feel curtailed.
You are aware of the terms of reference in this matter.
I am.
Are there any more details that you wish to supply to us with regards to any of those terms?
I think that's the thing. We need to put specific areas of each of the terms to it, let's put it as broad as that.
I was just trying to use that as an umbrella.
Yeah, but that's not really.
Okay.
Broad. What we just need on other terms.
Do you have any knowledge as to the cause of the explosion in which Dr. Walter Rodney died? Whether it was an act of terrorism, and if so, who were the perpetrators?
Learning Council, when I saw the body, I recognized that from the appearance of the torso, that this had been an explosion caused by a detonation of some kind. I didn't know what it was. If it had been, as people subsequently said, a walkie-talkie or whatever device. However, it was consistent with something called an anti-personal device. API or API. Now these are the kind of devices that either are shown, if it can be shown accurately, or planted in a vehicle, or in a bookcase, or in an office, or sent through the mail. It is used regularly, or was in the past, by the PD and by other intelligence services engaged in struggling against Africans in Guinea, Mozambique, and to a lesser extent Angola. In other words, it was a bomb. Additionally, subsequently, and based on my own experience of the APIs, I came to understand that it was not a walkie-talkie as such. It was what is called a placebo. A placebo is a device which is not what it pretends to be. The radio set or whatever was concealed an explosive device. You don't have a walkie-talkie and send a message to kill someone. You know, send a message to get a walkie-talkie is to communicate. that placebo device concealed within it a very ingenious insertion of a bomb.
From what you've read about the device that was allegedly involved in Rodney's possession, did you form any conclusions as to whether it was capable of functioning?
Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure that the evidential basis is there. Or my joint friend to suggest to us that the witness is an expert. Is he a bomb expert? There's no evidential basis is there.
I don't know that he's claiming to be expert, but on the first day that he testified, he gave us quite some evidence about his experience in the army.
Substantially different from what he's saying.
Could we hear the question again? I need to refresh myself to what the second.
The question is speaking about walkie-talkies, not explosives. So the question I want to ask is, and I think he's given evidence about his specialization in the army and about his duties and role as a signalman and how walkie-talkies work. So the question I want to ask him is whether he came to any conclusions about whether the device that Walter Rodney allegedly had was capable of functioning as a walkie-talkie.
Did he give evidence that he saw it?
This is why I premise the question by referring to what he may have read about it.
Ask him directly, so did you hear that it did?
Did you ever have an opportunity to see, either before or after the 13th of June 1980, any device that, the device in this case, that was classified as a walkie-talkie?
Honest answer to the question also would be that prior to I had knowledge of walkie-talkie sets. Walkie-talkie sets that are part and parcel of what is called a man pack. It is inserted in a knapsack and you carry it in your back.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we're speaking about the specific device that allegedly blew up on the 13th of June 1980. Did you ever see that device?
No.
Either before or after?
No.
Did you ever aware of any description of that device?
Of that specific device?
That specific one?
No. I wasn't. Most recently, I came across a publication written by a registered sister, Ron and Wagner, where they are inserted in that publication, written by a registered sister, detailed images or lithographs of a set or sets that were intended to prepare and then manufacture for water. That was the only time that I would receive images of what Reverend Smith allegedly gave to water. But as I said before, those images can be taken from any competent electronics magazine, National Electronics.
Could you get some details of that book or that?
You know the name of that book you're referring to? The book you should refer?
Well, there are several.
So the Reverend Smith book.
Oh, it is called, if I recall correctly, Cry Assassination, Story of Failed Revolution. Cry Assassination.
Assassination Cry.
Okay, yes, let's go both ways. I could go both ways.
And when the sister's name,
31 minutes. What is the right there now? We must have an attempt on it. What is the
Assassination Cry
Or Failed Revolution.
of a Failed Revolution.
That is the publication.
And this publication is written by Anne Wagner and co-authored by Reverend Smith.
Yes, the best man. And within the chapters of that particular publication, there are images of this particular set. So let's show.
Having looked at those images, did you form any impression?
Yes, I did.
Please share.
The impression I formed was that the author or authors very skillfully juxtaposed those images to give the impression that what Walter Rodney was given or handed to $2 was in fact what we said it was, a radio set. When in actual fact it could not have been a radio set. It had within it the kind of ingredients that being careful with the vocabulary. I want to be technical. If it had within the ingredients, the components that cause an explosion. But you just don't explode like that. Those who get a pop was one of the bottles of fruits and both, but not explode and kill you. I think the end common sense deduction. Sure.
Let me ask you this question directly. Having regard to your experience in the army, working with walkie-talkies and so on, could a walkie-talkie function as a walkie-talkie if a large amount of explosive is placed within the body of the walkie?
When it comes to my experience with the Air Force, and in the Air Force, any set for a walkie-talkie would be when you're in the field, that is the wooden exercises or actual combat, or if you're a paratrooper, to drop them, then you have the walkie-talkie. And there's no way that that walkie-talkie or radio set that is mobile can function if it's exposed to the operation. Absolutely.
The reason for that would be that there's not enough space in the shell to accommodate all the working parts of the walkie-talkie as well as the explosive.
You would have to have some kind of nerve to contain within that space, that mobile space, explosives, and then also have the same functions of a radio set. In other words, the point I'm making when it comes was that whatever was handed to Donald was a place both. It had the outer casings and appearance being a walkie-talkie. But in actual fact, it was an explosive device.
You do agree that from the 1980s to now, the technology has advanced considerably?
Yes, considerably, because there be different parts, different models.
So your answers about what you're saying about the explosives of the walkie-talkie relate to that period of time, 1980, as opposed to now?
Yes, I mean before, if I may, sorry. Walkie-talkies come within really three broad categories, if I may. They have the GPRs, general purpose. These general purposes, you can go some of them and acquire them through army surplus stores. You know, which will buy them at home. If you want, just will buy a bush jacket or a camouflage jacket or a beret in certain stores. You can buy these general purposes. But only after a period of time, let's say 10 or 15 years has elapsed, where the military has authorized that these military sets can go on the civilian market. That's the first category. The second category is where you have within the military certain sets that are created for certain purposes. And I explained that when I gave evidence before. I don't want to go into that. But the technology remains basically the same over the years. What changes is the marks. We have Mark 1, Mark 2, Mark 3, like a computer. All the way up until it is computed and put a completely different prototype in the beam. So you can have a walkie-talkie set that was made in the 70s or the 60s and continues but with certain modifications. If I can answer that question.
Yes, it was. Can you, if I would show you the part of that book, Assassination Crime or Failure Revolution, in which where you speak of having seen the diagrams, to be able to identify it in the book?
Yes, good.
Council, if you have the book, immediately following page 28.
I may have to ask the lawyer for it. I'm seeking you to show the book and the diagram before the pleasure. It is showed here.
The public who may be following.
And this is a page.
Immediately following page 28, they're looking at numbers.
Pages are numbered. Immediately after page 29,
Yes, sir.
and although the pages are numbered, they work in page 30 and 31.
They have no number.
So the page after is 32.
Okay.
And I think we can keep it because there is
Are those I think you refer to those little graphs? Are those the diagrams that you are speaking about when you spoke about diagrams seen in that book?
Yes, but these here are schematics. In other words, what has happened here is that a very skillful insertion has been made. For example, you can find this in a journal, but if you were to go to a power station, let's say you rented a station that produces hydropower. The technicians who are operating the controls would have on the wall something very similar to this to guide the operations of that hydropower station. So this doesn't really tell you very much. All it does is to illustrate from the author's perspective what they want the reader to know. They want the reader to know this. This is technology, an illustration of technology. As I said before, if you go to the Kingston Power Plant, on the side of the Wärtsilä generator, there will be images showing you, giving you a breakdown of how the Wärtsilä power facility functions and what to do if there's a breakdown, to instruct how to proceed, how to get started again. So what the Wärtsilä would have on the wall would be very similar to this. This doesn't really prove anything. I could have put this, I could have got this and put it in the book. I am saying, where it comes to, that Reverend Smith's purpose was to convey that in the book, with an actual fact, the device that was constructed for Rodney. Nothing to do with that.
perhaps it should be put in evidence and say it first.
I think it may be helpful to all the parties to hold it to be tell. I'm not sure if I can do so to this. So I'd like to tell the whole book. I know that the PNC seem to be relying on its contents, and I think it's only fair for the whole book to go ahead. I don't know if Mr. Williams has any objection to the whole book going in.
No, by all means, tell the book. Mr. Gilbert gave 2 books yesterday to the commission.
No, I'm saying that I'm open to tell it in this method.
Where's the objection? 2 books are handed over to the commission.
I told you this, the inquiry of council, when he had the objection, he had none, so what is the issue?
No issue.
Why you don't want to go get that?
Thank you.
Gender, I make it a mark.
Perhaps we can differentiate between the book as a whole and the pages that the witness has just identified when we come to market. So my application is for instance, that page just noted by the witness,
Pages 30 and 31.
30 and 31, to be marked,
Yes,
to be marked,
LER.
LER, I believe, and possibly for the entire book to be then marked as GS1.
GS?
Well, I was just in the initial Smith. LER 4, after
3 and 4.
I'm informed that we should, perhaps LER 3 is a good time for the diagram on pages 30 and 31, and LER 4 perhaps is a good marking for the diagram.
I would that the other way around. You book first. And then
As a piece,
general and then specific.
as a piece.
So the second time.